quantity soup, and I'll let Xcode turn quantity and soup into variables for me in Xcode. So that's it. That's actually all you have to do to get your shortcuts to be exposed like this in the shortcut editor. Now that the intent is configurable and it shows up in the Shortcuts app, it's ready to use parameters. So the next thing we need to be able to do is resolve the parameters of the intent. Let's talk about how to do that. In iOS 12, when the user invokes a shortcut through Siri, it goes through two phases. First, confirm, and then handle. This year, we're adding a third phase, which is called resolve, and it should be familiar to you if you've already worked with SiriKit APIs in the past. In the resolve phase, Siri goes through each parameter that you've defined on your intent and asks your intent handler to resolve that parameter to decide whether or not to ask the user a question. For Soup Chef, Siri will first call resolve on the soup parameter, which might ask a question like, what soup do you want? And then it'll call resolve on quantity, which could ask a question like, how many soups do you want? And lastly, it'll ask it on store location, which might say, where do you want to order your soup from? Once all the parameters are resolved, Siri will invoke the same confirm and handle methods as the ones that we had in iOS 12. So let's take a look at what this means in code. Because Xcode automatically generates an intent handling protocol for every intent that you define. And you implement that protocol in your intent handler. In iOS 12, Xcode generated these two methods, confirm and handle, which you would implement in order to execute your intent. But this year, Xcode will also generate resolve methods for each parameter that you've marked as user configurable. Siri will call the resolve methods and ask questions in the order of the parameters that you've defined in Xcode. And you can drag and drop the parameters in Xcode to change the order of parameter resolution. When the resolve method is called, the intent is passed as input to the resolve method, including a value for the parameter that's currently being resolved. So that value can come from a couple of different places. The first time the resolve method is called, when the shortcut is being run, the value is filled in from whatever the user set on the shortcut when they created it. In this example, the soup field is empty, maybe because the user sometimes orders clam chowder and sometimes orders tomato soup. And they want to set up a shortcut that's going to ask them every time they use it which one they want. So when the resolve method is called, the soup parameter will be filled in as empty because there was nothing filled out in the shortcut, and that's going to be passed to the intent that's passed to resolve. The responsibility of the resolve method is to provide a resolution result, which determines what Siri will do next. Now, again, because the field is empty, the Soup Chef app might want to ask the user for a value by passing the needs value resolution result. Passing needs value will cause Siri to ask a question for this parameter, which the user can respond to with their voice. So Soup Chef might say, what type of soup do you want? And the user can respond with something like clam chowder. Now, the input that the user says, clam chowder, will be filled into the intent, and the same resolve method will be invoked again with that input this time. So the app can decide what to do next. In this case, clam chowder is a valid soup, and we have it in stock. So the resolve method should this time return success, which will cause Siri to move on to the next parameter in the list. Now, if the user had set up the shortcut instead to have the parameter preset to clam chowder, because maybe they want their shortcut to order clam chowder every time without asking them, then that would be passed to resolve instead of the empty value. And in this case, the resolve method can return success right away, and Siri won't ask a question for that parameter at all. So in the implementation of your resolve method, you need to look at the current value of the parameter on the intent. If there's no value, you might need to ask the user for a value by returning needs value. And if the user has filled out a value on the shortcut when they set it up, or if they just said something to Siri, there might be a value there already, which needs to be validated and hopefully passed as success. So every time your resolve method is called, it needs to supply this resolution result. And I'm now going to hand it over to Roman to tell you about how you can provide great resolution results to provide a robust voice experience in Siri. Roman?
Thanks, Ari. Hello. When I'm building a voice experience, I want to think about all of edge cases of what the user could say and how to handle them well. For example, if the user asks to order more soups than we have in stock, we should tell them appropriately. If the user asks to order soup from a store that's far away, we can give them options of stores that are closer. On the resolve step, this is your opportunity to influence Siri's behavior and decide whether or not Siri asks a question. And this is where you handle all edge cases of the user input. In order to do that, you need to provide a resolution result. There are 6 resolution result types that you can choose from. Let's go through each one of them, starting with needs value. If the user didn't specify the value at the shortcut configuration time, and you need one in order to proceed, you can tell Siri that you need a value. You need to provide your own custom prompt dialog for each parameter that you can resolve. To do that, open the intent editor. Select the parameter that you would like to specify Siri dialog for, and then type your custom prompt in the prompt text field. If you return disambiguation, Siri will ask the user to pick from a list of values. This is a good idea if the value in the parameter is ambiguous, or if you just have few possible things for the user to choose from. You can customize the disambiguation dialog in the intent editor. Return unsupported tells Siri that your app doesn't support the provided value. For example, if customer tries to order too many soups, we can respond appropriately by saying that we don't have enough in stock. And after that, Siri will reprompt the user. You can define the error messages that will be shown to the user under the validation error section in Xcode. Xcode automatically provides default behavior for minimum and maximum values that you specify in the intent editor. Return confirmation required will cause Siri to ask the user to confirm the parameter value. Use this if it's unclear whether or not user actually wants this value, or you have a strong guess but still would like to confirm the value with the user. Again, you can customize the parameter confirmation prompt in the intent editor. Returning success means that we have a valid parameter value, and Siri should move on to the next parameter. Returning not required means that your app doesn't need a value for this parameter at this time, so Siri should skip it and move on to the next one. The resolve methods will be invoked at the shortcut execution time in both Siri and the Shortcuts app. So you need to make sure that your implementation behaves correctly in both environments. So now let's take a look at what the execution flow looks like. This is the new Shortcuts app. And here in my Shortcuts tab, you can see all of the shortcuts that I created or added from the gallery. To create a new shortcut, I'm going to tap on the Create Shortcut button. In the Shortcut editor, I need to add actions to my shortcut. To do that, I'm going to tap on the Add Action button. I use the Soup Chef app daily to order delicious soups, so here's already a suggestion for me to order a soup. All I need to do is just give it a name. So here's my shortcut. All I need to do is just give it a name and save it to my shortcuts. To do that, I'm going to tap on the Next button. Let's call this shortcut Order Soup. Now, let's try invoking the shortcut with voice in Siri. Hey Siri, order soup.
Which soup do you want? We have 3 specials today: clam chowder, tomato soup, or chicken noodle soup.
Clam chowder.
There are 2 restaurants near you. Which one do you want to order from? 3801 South Sheridan Boulevard or 7401 South Lewis Avenue?
The first one.
Ready to order?
Yes, please.
Okay, ordering. Your total is $3.75. Your clam chowder order will be ready in 10 minutes.
And just like that, I ordered a soup with shortcuts in Siri. Now, let's try writing the same shortcut from the Shortcuts app. But before I do that, I would like to customize the shortcut. I'm going to tap on the soup field and select the soup that I usually order from Soup Chef. I'm going to select clam chowder. Now I'm going to tap on the Done button to save the shortcut. Let's try running the shortcut from the Shortcuts app by simply tapping on it. So here I get presented with the same disambiguation prompt to choose a store, just like in Siri. I'm going to select the first option. And done. I just ordered another soup. I guess I'm really hungry today. Now let's talk